Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I figured I'd go and check out some recently released Vita games. This is basically just going to be a spree of me recording like 4 different Vita games that I missed as they came out for multiple reasons, including basically playing all of Doom Eternal, all of Half-Life Alyx, and most of the Final Fantasy VII Remake basically in a chain. I don't know why this suddenly happened, but well. Unfortunately, I had to start with Super Destronaut Land Wars, because I'm hoping this is going to be the last one of the worst one of the bunch, I should say, but, well, we'll see about that, won't we? So, the options are all pretty basic. I'd recommend turning the sensitivity up as far as you can make it go, or at least as far as you're comfortable with, because it starts out way too slow. And it also doesn't have any of the really important things for a shooter, like having aim acceleration so that you can afford to make slight taps without your view going across the screen, which means that if you put it all the way up to 12, you might be all over the place, you might not be able to hit shit, but if you have it on the default, it means that it moves too slowly. I do appreciate that you can turn the screen shake off, but I'd be lying if I said I even noticed it. Easy statistics, there's no goddamn way I've played this game for 2 hours. I'm thinking you might be counting time that the Vita spent in I think it might be counting time that Vita spent in sleep mode. Jesus. Right. You've also got a how to play, but it's like literally one screen, so it's not like you really need to worry about it. So you've got challenges. There are 30 challenges, and if you remember how Super Destronaut worked, where it was basically just really short stages with simple goals that you could do within a certain time limit, that's what these are, but they're even more boring than that game, so I'd recommend not bothering to do them. Your rating is determined by how fast you can do them, which is actually really annoying when you're actually playing the game, and there are a couple of things that happen that really get in the way of this, but I'll tell you about that when we actually get in the game. So you do actually have a few modes in here, and there's a couple of them that I appreciate. You start with max multiplier, and if it bottoms you out, you lose. That's pretty cool. And shoot that enemy with a shoot that enemies with a freaking rocket launcher. Great job on the English, guys. This is a Ratalaika port after all. Those sorts of things just generally sneak through. And you are slow and can't jump, although that's probably not very pleasant at all. As you can see, I played the classic mode and I played it to 1,000,000 points, and I was basically indestructible. We're gonna play that again just so I actually look decent while I'm playing and talking about the game at the same time. Although, frankly, I probably could survive on hardcore mode just fine, but, well, we'll just leave that one alone, shall we? So, this is Super Destronaut Land Wars. It is a first-person shooter with arcadey elements. You have a gun, shoot the aliens. The aliens drop money. Dead aliens and money are multipliers, but it doesn't actually tell you what your multiplier is, except for that little bar that's slowly draining up there in the top left corner of the screen. That's it. That's all you get. So, yeah, basically you just need to wander around, shoot aliens, their corpses will drop money, and then you can take that money and spend it at that screen that we started at. And the things that you can buy, well, I'll be able to demonstrate because chances are I'll be able to survive this and get tons of money without even really trying. But yeah, this is literally the entire game. It all actually takes place inside this tiny ass, like, little arena where everything looks the same, so it's actually pretty easy to end up getting lost anyway. It's actually kind of bizarre in that respect. Hang on, there's one thing I want to get first. We want to start with Coin Magnet, because that makes it easier to pick up money, which we want. So, yeah, there is literally like nothing else to talk about mechanics-wise. I mean, you can jump, but there's almost no point to it because the enemies are capable of shooting those bullets that can hit you in the air anyway, so it's not like jumping really helps you out. You can't bunny hop. You can't really do anything like that. You just have to just try and avoid the bullets somehow. You don't even really need to worry about jumping just because it does nothing for you. It all takes place entirely on like this flat land. There's no like higher platforms, there's no enemies that are further up in the air than a single jump every now and again. So you just find yourself walking along these really flat floors, turning to the left and right, firing a bunch of like weaponry in the right direction and hoping you hit. That's basically the long and the short of the game. it's not even that satisfying. The weapon very clearly has no kick, no feedback, no nothing to it. And it just bobs up and down like that constantly, even while you're walking, which would probably make you really inaccurate, like in real life, if you decided to do things that way. But, well, that's just kind of what happens. Sometimes you get this rampage power up, which lets you fire a little bit faster and gives you a second gun. It's always this like assault rifle thing though, which is annoyingly inaccurate. It's just inaccurate enough to not be accurate enough for, like, you know, my personal taste at the very least. How much until I can get my hands on that laser gun? Fair bit more. Okay, whatever. There's just so much wasted potential here because you could do some really neat things with this, like have higher platforms. Like, I recently played through Doom Eternal, right? End to end. So I'd like to think I would know what a good shooter would be up to. And Doom Eternal was a good shooter. It had a lot of things going on. And then coming back to this game where everything feels so flat and lifeless. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of an even worse version of that game that came out on PlayStation Mobile, Gun Commando. At least I think that was what the name of it was. Where it's literally just on a flat plane and you just like, how much have I got? 10,800? Cool. Give me that laser gun, please. Where you're just on a flat plane, you turn left and right, you don't have to aim up and you just shoot. Especially once you've got the laser gun like I've got here. This thing is like, well, is laser accurate, haha. And it's also got the longest range out of everything just because of how accurate it is. So if your cursor is on the enemy and you fire, you're basically guaranteed the hit. Not to mention the lasers pierce. Now, there is a rocket gun that you can get, but the laser gun just outclasses it. That's all there is to it. The laser gun just outclasses every other weapon in the game because it's deadly accurate, kills in one shot, and goes through everything. So most enemies that are close enough together to be in like the splash damage range of the rocket launcher are probably also going to be taken out by a single shot of the laser gun as well. That's just the way it works. So the entire strategy for all the modes that I can think of is get as many coins as you possibly can. Once you have, buy the laser gun and you win. Because I spent a bunch of time grinding up to 1,000,000 points and I don't think my health up there in the top right ever dropped below half. So I just can't help but think to myself that they really should have added a few extra mechanics in, because this just gets boring within 10 minutes. And I played it for a fair bit longer than that. So yeah, it's not great. You could have done so much more with it. You could have added so many more mechanics. Like, the weapons could actually have like some kind of pros and cons. Like, some better balancing would have done better. Enemies that are more interesting than just like stand there and shoot at you. Like, there's this one that'll teleport around from time to time, but it usually teleports so close that it's just a quick like flick of the aim cursor. You only ever fight on this one level. There's no other like alternatives. There's no special environmental features. It's just you, this one flat area, the store, and a bunch of randomly spawning enemies. And I mean it when I say randomly spawning, because it feels like it is. There are multiple challenges in this game which require you to go kill a lot of enemies very quickly, but they only spawn enemies in waves. And these waves can spawn anywhere on the map, right? So they can spawn on the other side of the map, they can spawn right on top of you, they can spawn anywhere in between. But the dog's going off, I can't help that, I apologize. But sometimes the enemies will only spawn a new wave when you wander over to another area. And that can get really frustrating, especially if you're on a mission where you need to beat like 12 enemies and you need to get a certain time for it. Because as I said before, all the challenges are ranked on time, so you have to get through them as fast as humanly possible. And it just means that you spend like more time. You just spend more time wandering across the floor thinking, when are they going to bring up the new enemies so I can finish the challenge? And it just makes the challenges even more of a slog than they already are, because you'll spend half of them wandering around waiting for the next enemy wave to spawn. There's not even any interesting like goals or objectives or anything like that. It's usually just earn a certain amount of money, get a certain multiplier, kill a certain amount of enemies, survive a certain amount of waves, or get a certain amount of money, go back to the store and buy a weapon, which basically isn't really any different than just collect a certain amount of money, but, well, that's how they decide to make the game, I guess. So it's basically got no mechanical depth, it's got no fun mechanics. The overall presentation of it is lacking just because of how unpleasant the weapons are to fire. The only decent one is the laser gun because it gives you that immediate feedback. Jumping feels pointless. There's like no other mechanics, levels, or interesting monster varieties to speak of. There's no variety in like anything. I guess the only real upside is, outside of a random stutter here and there, it actually performs pretty well. Considering that this is a Ratalaika port, you really should be surprised by this. Also, I'm guessing Rampage is just like... I'm guessing Rampage is just random depending on how many coins you pick up. Because it gives it to you almost randomly. Maybe when your multiplier tops out, it's possible. I admit I haven't been paying very close attention, but to be fair, considering I've been able to like actively talk about this game as I go and have basically found no resistance whatsoever, it kind of means that the game's too easy, which is kind of weird considering the amount of difficulty there was in Super Destronaut. I could probably make this sort of game, or at least something resembling it, in like a couple of hours on Unreal 4's Blueprint tools, which is basically just like a drag and drop system. So basically, once you've got all your upgrades, you're invincible. That's all there is to it. You regain health by killing enemies, and you can kill them from so far away and so quickly with this railgun that unless they decide to spawn a bunch behind you because they're a bunch of dicks, you basically won't get hurt by anything. And there's nothing left for you to do. Like, different variations, different level heights, different levels in general, different monsters, different goals, weapons that don't feel like shit. Anything would do the job here, but it seems like you guys just put like 30 minutes of effort into any game that you put out. And by, I don't mean Ratalaika, because Ratalaika don't make these games, they just port them. But the people who made Super Destronaut and Super Destronaut Land Wars and whatever, let's just get out the shotgun so I can show you what it's like. It's got the same problem as the assault rifle in that it's inaccurate, so you have to get close for the shots to actually land, which is why the laser gun is as good as it is, and which is why you should just go straight to it. But yeah, it feels like the guys who make the Super Destronaut series in particular spend like 30 minutes drawing out a design document for a game, then make that in like 2 weeks. And when it gets to a particularly like, you know, like you can say it's playable, but is it really fun? Well, I don't care. Shove it out the door anyway. It feels like that's all they spend their time doing when any number of extra mechanics could have helped this game out. Like, I hate to compare it to Doom Eternal, but to be fair, even Doom 2016 with its varied level design, its interesting monster variety, its variation of weapons that actually feel like they have kick and impact, and like having more than one fucking level, you can't help but think to yourself, did these guys just play like, say, Faceball 2000 back in the day? Like, did these guys play Faceball 2000 in 2019 and think to themselves, you know what, I can make a better version with that, but it's gonna be in virtual reality with aliens? And then that's as far as they thought about it. That's got to be as far as they got, because there is nothing in this game that suggests otherwise. A reason why like the retro revivals are as loved as they are is because Okay, never mind. Maybe there are some performance problems, but the reason why retro revivals are as loved as they are is because they take the old and the new and they mix it together in a way which is way more pleasant and enjoyable than even some of the older games from back in the day could do. But this game is just so incredibly dull and unrecognizable when you compare it to a shooter that you'd actually want to imitate, that it's amazing that they decided this was even worth taking off the drawing board. And I really don't know what else to say for it. Like, I could play this forever. This doesn't get any harder. This is about as hard as it gets. And if I just swap back to the railgun, I'll be good for like the entirety of the rest of the game. Just because they can't stop me now. I'm faster than them. I can hit way harder than them. I get health back when I shoot them. And the game is just so mind-numbingly easy. I mean, we could start like on wave 5, but this is like wave 20. And it hasn't gotten any harder since wave 5. So all I'd need to do is get the money saved up for the regular old gun and I'd win, more or less. So, I mean, I could play the other modes. There's no denying that, but it's just not worth the time or the effort. So, yeah. That was a look at Super Destronaut Land Wars. It's garbage. Honest to God, garbage. But as we all know, Sony seems to have stopped caring about putting out garbage on the Vita store now, so I guess we'll be seeing more games like this. And we definitely will be seeing more games like this, because I've got 3 other Vita games here to go through. Admittedly, that one in the middle probably isn't going to be garbage, but Mechorama and Rush Rover? Well, they're both Ratalaika ports, so we'll just wait and see, won't we? This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.